Okay, so when we're dealing with arrays, we basically have, we can also do string arrays. And so if we take a look at month days here, we have string left and right square bracket months, and inside there we've got our braces, and we're actually loading, we're not only just creating an array, but we're also loading the array with data. So in this case we have January through December. And then I have another array, which is an int array, and again I'm doing the same thing, loading that in with this time integer data. Now if you look at these two arrays, you notice that they have a lot in common. What that means is they are what we call parallel arrays. So that means the element 0 of array months and the element 0 of array days coincide with each other. And we do that because we can't put mixed data inside of one array. So we've got months, days, one strings, one is int. So I come through here and I say for int index equals 0, while the index is less than the months dot length, index is plus plus every time you go through. I say syst out print line months has that many days. So it's pretty cool. So again, we can do string arrays, we can do int arrays, we can do double arrays. I'll run this real quick. And notice it says January has 31 days, February has 28 days, all the way down to December has 31 days. Now the one thing I want you to pay close attention to is you notice that we have January do not count on the index being the month number. What do I mean by that? Well, January is in the 0 element, February is in the 1 element, March is in the 2 element, so on and so forth. So they're not going to match up to the index. They're going to match up to what the element number. So again, we can do element or string arrays, so on and so forth. If we take a look at section 7.7, there we start getting into arrays as objects. So this is kind of getting into the OO things of. So if we take a look at the object array, I'm on page 450. So if we take a look at this, it's a public static void main, so it's an executable array, or I'm sorry, executable method. So we have final int num account. So again, I'm creating a constant called num accounts, and it's going to be set to 3. And I've got bank account, left and right square bracket, accounts equals new. What is bank accounts? Well, bank accounts it's a class over here that has its own fields, instance variables, so on and so forth. Let me get this taken care of. So there I have public class bank account. It looks like it has one instance variable called balance. It's a double data type. Here we've got a constructor of bank account where I'm setting the balance equal to 0.0. Here I have another constant. Again, remember, depending on the signature of the constant, it will basically execute one of these. So it looks like I have three constructors. Yep, three constructors. One has a no-arg constructor, one is a double, one is a string. So again, we basically have seen this in the previous chapter where we basically, if we pass in a string, we convert it to a double. If we pass in a double, we leave it as is. If we pass in nothing, we're going to initialize that starting balance to 0.0. So nothing really too excited about this. We got deposit. We go ahead and increase the balance by the deposit. We decrease the balance by the amount with the withdrawal, so on and so forth. I think this is pretty much the same class as we saw in the last chapter, except this time we're actually creating an object array, meaning I'm creating an object and I'm loading that into, I'm actually creating an array from that. So here's bank account, which is the class, and the left and right square bracket says I'm creating an array, and accounts is going to be the name of this object. I'm instantiating it as a new bank account, and how many elements are going to be in it? Whatever we have in num accounts, which is 3. So when I get through, I now have a bank account class array as it's got 3 elements. Okay, so I've got create accounts, accounts. So again, we can see that it's italicized. That means it's a static method somewhere in this class. So there's create accounts, and look at that. Create accounts, which is an array. So I'm expecting to pass an array to this. What type of an array is it? It's a bank account array. So think about it. Each element of the array is an object. The next element is an object. The next element is an object. And what's an object? Instance variables, methods. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Each element, talking about our bookshelf, each shelf has an object. In this case, it's a bank account array object. Okay, so it's pretty cool stuff. So now when I go in here, scanner, so I got my scanner keyboard, and I'm going to type in, I guess I'm just going to use it as output. So for int index equals 0, the index, while the index is less than the array dot length, so the number of elements in the array, I'm going to increase this index by 1 each time I go through it. I'm going to say enter the balance for account index plus 1. So what, again, I don't want to say account 0. So I want to so if I've got 5 accounts, I want the first account to be number 1, next account to be number 2, so on and so forth. So I got to take the index and add 1 to it. So it becomes number 1, the next one becomes number 2, all the way through 5. And then I say balance keyboard next double. So basically what I'm doing is I'm getting the balance from typing it in into the console. And then I say array index equals new bank account balance. So I'm taking the array. Remember, each element is a bank account. So I'm taking whatever index that is, I'm making it equal to, so I'm instantiating each element. That's pretty cool. So I'm instantiating each element, because there's the new, as a bank account, whatever balance I type in. So right now it's a double. Because balance is a double. If it was a string, it could still handle it. Because remember, our constructor can handle a string, convert it to double. So that's basically what's going on there. Each array element is an object. And I say take that array element and instantiate it as a new bank account class with the constructor of double, because I'm passing a double, and it's going to execute that. So pretty cool stuff there. So I can actually make an object array. So each element is an object all by itself. So if we go ahead and run that, one thing I want to point out real quick, you notice I keep getting these errors. It's saying errors exist in required projects. That's because I have all of these red X's in here. It says, hey, you've got, in the whole entire project, you've got errors. Well, I'm not worried about that because I'm only running this one precise class. So when I click proceed, it's going to run just fine. So it comes in, it says, what's the balance for count 1? I'm going to say 100, then 200, then 300. Okay, and it comes up and says, here's the balances for each one. So one thing I didn't, right, so here are the balances for each account, and then it basically goes through and gets the balance from each account. So here's the accounts. Again, that's an object. It's a bank account object. The index dot get balance. So it's going to execute the get balance method for each object. So it's pretty cool stuff. So I entered it in for each one, and it executed this guy, and then it basically goes through this for loop and executes and gets the get balance method from each one. So that's pretty slick stuff. Page 7, I just want to say this about page 7. I'm sorry, page 452, chapter 7. That gets into searching. We'll cover searching in just a second. I just want to cover this very briefly. A two-dimensional array. Think of a two-dimensional array as a spreadsheet, and what I mean by that is you have columns and rows. So let me just go ahead and bring it up. It is corpsales.java. So if we take a look at this guy, here we've got final int divs. So we got a constant called divs, and it's got 3 in it. final int quarters set to 4. So I have two constants. They're both integer data types, 3 and 4. Double total sales equals 0.0. So here I've got double, so I'm creating a double variable of some kind. Now I've got two square brackets equals new double and divs quarters. So basically what this is saying is I've got, in this case, 3 rows, 4 columns. So 3 rows, 4 columns. So it says system.out println, this program will calculate the total sales of all the company's divisions into the following sales data. Now this is where it gets kind of tricky, because you're going to see I've got a for loop inside of a for loop. So what this says is right here, it says for int div equals 0, div, while div is less than capital divs, add 1 to each div. Then right immediately it says for int quarter equals 0, quarters, while quarters is less than capital quarters, add 1 to quarters. So then it says division quarter div 1 plus 1. So basically, again, that's a situation where I don't want to say 0, 0. I want to say this is division 1, quarter 1, division 1, quarter 2, division 1, quarter 3. So here I say sales div quarter equals keyboard next double. So I'm going to go through this. This is called the inside loop. This guy's called the outside loop. So the inside loop is going to execute basically 4 times. The outside loop is going to execute 3 times. So this inside loop is actually going to execute 4 times, another 4 times, and another 4 times. So it's going to actually execute 12 times. So first time through, div is going to be 1, quarter is going to be 2. We come back around, div is still 1, quarter is, I'm sorry, let me back up. First time through, div is a 0, quarter is a 0. Next time through, div is still a 0, quarter is 1. Next time through, div is still 0, quarter is 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Then it drops out of this loop, does a print line for a blank line, and comes back up and increases the div by 1. And then it does this inside loop again, starts back at 0. So now, going through this loop again, div is going to be 1, quarter is going to be 0. Div is going to be 1, quarter is going to be 1. Div is going to be 1, quarter is going to be 2. Div is going to be 1, quarter is going to be 3. It drops out of that loop, does a print line, comes back up, increases div by. So you can kind of see the progression here. So once we've basically gotten, because we're asking the user, because we got a keyboard.next double, we're asking the user to enter data for each one of those divisions and quarters, then it's going to go through and do total sales, getting the divisions, the 12 different elements we're going to type in, and then it's going to print that out. So if we run this real quick, corp sales, and it comes up and says division 1, quarter 1, we'll say $100, we'll say $200, $300, and $400. And now we're back to division 2, quarter 1. So 100, 200, 300, 400. Division 3, quarter 1. So here's 100, 200, 300, and 400. So now it's going to add those all up. Boom, we got a company total of $3,000. So, two-dimensional array. Think of it like a spreadsheet. We got rows and columns. Now, I do want to just say this. I don't want to dwell on it, but we can have 3, 4, 5, 6-dimensional arrays. That gets ugly. Okay, so think of a 3-dimensional array as, think of a mail slot where it's got rows and columns, and then each one of those mail slots has a diagonal thing in there where I can actually put 2 more things in there. So I'd have to call it mail slot 1, 1, 1. So kind of ugly. So we'll continue this in a sec.